사실 다 갖다 연구했던 거야?
기다렸다가
이거 다 쓴다고 할까? 내가 말했던 거 아니야?
Let's start today. We have Saul Yunyo as our first speaker. Please come up to the front. Let's hear the speech.
Okay, may I start? Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today's motion is about stop exporting chemicals that are particularly harmful to the environment. Before we talk about our three argument, I will give you a definition of a keyword in this day. First, stop means not quitting right away, but gradually decrease the amount of exporting objecting to complete stop. And developed nations are countries that have highly developed economy and advanced technological infrastructure related to other least developed nations. And I give you three arguments about this motion. First, it is the way to pursue sustainable development. And second, developed nation has responsibility their behavior. And third, it can prevent exploitation of developed nation. Our first and second argument developed by me, and third argument developed by our Deputy Prime Minister. And let's review the detail of our argument. First argument about sustainable development. Today, environmental disruption is worse and worse. That is one of the biggest problems which have to solve immediately. United Nations Environment Program announced that one of the biggest remote causes is fossil fuel. Also, International Energy Agency report that the use of fossil fuel increased 45%, and that is more than use of renewable energy 25%. Also, this fossil fuel includes from Australia and United States and China. If this situation continues, we will be no development, that's just extinction. We have responsibility for making sustainable Earth against environment disruption. Government side believe that stop exporting is one of the way to support this sustainable Earth. Through stop exporting, we can prevent environmental disruption. Also, it can be chance to accumulate alternative energy development. And this is sustainable development for our next generation and for us. And our second argument is development responsibility. Today's developed nation passed the industrial revolution at first. In this process, they pollute environment, like using fossil fuel for transporting, making energy, and so on. At that time, they don't consider pollution. They just pursue development for their own benefit. This is result from that result is pollution, and this situation strikes not only developed nation but other nations. Developed nation has responsibility for this situation. They lead to work as this tendency like protecting Earth and Earth. Also, developed nation has power in the world, and their behavior influence directly on world than other nations. So they really have responsibility for their passing behavior. Now it is time to take chart their behavior. Our first and second argument about this, and our third argument developed by our Deputy Prime Minister. Thank you for listening.
And now we have our second speaker in Canada from the opposition house. Please come up to the front and give us your speech.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Arrow of the opposition, and first I would like to read the ideas of the government side. And they mentioned that stop exporting can make sustainable development, but we think that we need to use unsustainable energy source to continue our life. So we know that the kind of energies are harmful to the environment, but we need first of all we need to live our life, and there is not much ways to replace this situation. So their opinions have some problems, and also they have mentioned that developing nations have a responsibility to protect the environment. They should know that there are some countries such as Norway and Canada which need to export energy resources to make money. So I'll talk about that as second argument. First of all, I would like to cycle our role speakers. First argument and second argument will be mentioned by Arrow, and third argument will be mentioned by second speaker, Diego. And lastly, our lead speaker will simply summarize our argument, and he also give you our reporters about the opponent part. And first of all, our first argument is disadvantage to developed nations. We would like to emphasize that there is no proper reason to stop exporting of developed nations. They usually insist that they can stop exporting can make protect environment, and it can make it better. But we would like to say that even though developed nations stop exporting that kind of harmful energy, developing nations would export them because of the world demand. So it's not a proper reason to stop exporting. And secondly, as I mentioned, Canada and Norway have a big value of oil exporting rank. For example, Canada is increasing oil exporting rate, and it makes their exporting oil industry of value, and Norway have a big company of oil exporting oil company. So regulation of energy resources have effect to developed nations too. It's unfair to regulate them because they are the developed nation. And secondly, I would like to emphasize the current situation developed nations in energy industry. As I mentioned, Canada and Norway have a big power in exporting oil, and the biggest nation about coal reserve in America. They affect to our energy industry a lot. So if they stop exporting the kind of energy, we need to a nation to replace them. But we almost that it's hard to replace because energy resources are hard to make, and and also it makes much time to replace. So we think that their arguments have some problems. So we believe that stop exporting. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Kim Rubin as our first speaker. Please come to the front and give us your speech.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the second speaker of the Government House. So, I will now rebut 3 things to the opposition house, and then elaborate our first and second argument, and then develop our third argument. So, firstly, I want to ask them this question: is the benefit of developed nation and the world's quality of the living people, which is more important? I think the quality of the universal people's livelihood is more important. So that can rebut to their rebuttals that making money is more important to the developed countries like the Canada. But for the one country's benefit, should we damage the earth, environment, and policy, all the things that we cannot do anything? I don't think so. And so because the proved resource limit is now only for 40 minutes left. 40 years left. So waiting until the end of this limit leads to worst situation of the world. This is why we should be saying developed nations should stop exporting the energy sources. And secondly, about the first argument, he said no reason to stop the exporting. But we said, UNEP said, because of the environmental damage, it influences the GDP to decrease by 13%. Is that the way they want to say? They emphasize the benefits, so for the fortunes of the developed countries, but it makes a contradiction with this statistics. So that doesn't make sense. And thirdly, they said it is needed to leave of the people, but as our Prime Minister defined in the definition, the stop is not meaning the quit right away. It is processing the stopping by step. So even though there is not much debasement of the alternative or renewable resources of the energy, we should do it because to make a better quality of living in the universe for the future. I'll now elaborate our first and second argument. First one is about the pursuing sustainable development, because the CO2 emission has been increased by the thermal power generation using oil and coal. So this can be the starting point of developing the renewable resources of the energy, and also prevent air pollutions or any kind of pollutions of the environment, which is getting more accelerated. And thirdly, and second argument was about the responsibilities of developed nations. They have respected such status, which means they can make ripple effects for other developing countries. So thirdly, I will now develop our third argument. It can be with this way we can prevent exploitation of developing countries. In the status quo, there is energy sources. Generally, it is said that one of the most important points of the industries, especially for quickly developing countries, earning money with the chemical industry. So the economy is under the price range of the energy resources, and which is decided by the market of developed countries. This means that they can be colonized by the developed countries by the prices, which is related to the benefits of nations and nations. So now is the time to make this stopping experience.
Please come up to the front and let us hear your speech.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the data level of the opposition house, and I would like to talk to you two things. First thing is the improper opinion of the government house, and second one is our third argument of the opposition house. So firstly, I would like to tell you about the improper opinion of the government house. Firstly, they said the developed nation didn't consider pollution and just pursued their own benefit. But because of the developed nations' effort, benefits are come down to now, and developing countries following the way that what developed nations did. And the developed countries didn't consider the pollution, but they are the main people who lead the protection of environment committees. And secondly, she said the DPM of the government house said that because of the environment damage, there is some proof that the developing countries GDP is 13% decreasing, but that is not only because of, I think that is not only because of the damage of environment. Can be more other reasons. Sorry, no thanks, sir. I'm sorry, ma'am. And also she said that stop exporting can make better quality of universal life, but stop exporting affects bad effects and quality of universal people because developed nations are exporting energy to nations which need them. And so next I would like to talk about our third argument. No thanks, sir. Ma'am. The third argument of our house is global relationship. The developed nations are exporting the harmful energy sources because of the demand of other nations. Like because of, for example, China or Brazil, their energy demand is rapidly increasing because of their sudden economic growth. So they apply their energy demand by the coal, especially the anthracite. So they import the coal from the USA, which have lots of coal. And in exporting the harmful energy sources means even though it is harmful, but there is the countries who needs the energy resources, even though it is harmful. So, for example, there is Brazil and China again. Brazil and China is a new economic growing nations, so they need lots of energy resources, and by importing the energy resources, they can relax their energy demand. Also, no thanks, ma'am. For example, in South Korea we have great skill to make crude oil to like other oil products. So we can do processing trade by that crude oils. And also, if the developing nations doesn't have any resources that they need, they have to import the resources by the developed nation. So with these reasons, we strongly believe that developed nations should not stop exporting energy resources that are harmful to the environment. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Now we have Suri from the government house.
Can I start? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a lead speaker of the government side. As a lead, I'd like to do 3 things on this stage. First, I'd like to point out some wrong point of the opposition. And second, I'd like to talk about the clashes still with this debate. And third, lastly, I'd like to simply summarize our team's opinion. Now, I'd like to start with the first one. Well, I have 4 points of 4 wrong point of the opposition. First, the first people come and say that even if we stop exporting energy resources, developing nations will need resources. But I would like to say that no. If developing nation change the system, the developing nations will follow this system. I'm sure, because developing country has in developing country there are a lot of factories that run by developed nations. It means the owner of the factory is developed nations. Is it possible that owner change the system? Is it possible that even the owner change the system, but the servant follow the old system? I think it is ridiculous. I think it is ridiculous. And third, the first people comment. No, thank you. Comment say that Norway and Canada, it is hard to find alternative resources. Yes, it is hard to find alternative resources. But do you think it is more? But it is more hard to make gone resources to come out again. And if it's the only way the Norway and Canada are their perfect, they should find other methods because the proved resource limits are running out. And third, the second speaker comments out and say that there are other ways that affect environment, bad effect on the environment. But she said that there is other effects, but she didn't give out any other specific example. It is possible that she doesn't give what is bad, what could affect. She just say that it could affect. I don't think that it can fit on debate. And third, and for the second speaker comment also said export because other nations depend. But it is the only way that the developing nations export natural resources. I don't think. It is possible that one nation exports just for other countries' demand. They're not volunteering for them. They're exporting because there is tasty profit. I don't believe that this could be a reason. Now, I'd like to talk about the clashes dealt with this debate. First clashes was financial benefit and the environment. The opposition comment emphasizing the financial effect about the Norway and Canada. Yes, there is a powerful and effective financial impact on the environment, but it is more important. But one country's profit is more important than the universal benefit. I don't think. Opposition gave so much narrowed-minded opinion that does not concern the universal benefit. I strongly believe that we both government side and opposition should think about the whole universal benefit.
on, ma'am.
No, thank you. And second, about the necessity. The opposition colleague said that the necessity of about using the resources, but I believe that if we make alternate resources, it could change the necessity. Like the Asian people use the fire only the way, but we use other resources in today's world. And now I'd like to simply summarize our team's opinion. First argument was it is a way to pursue sustainable development. And second, developed nations have responsibility for their behavior. And third, it can prevent exploitation of developed nations. Ladies and gentlemen, now we have two choices. If you take proposition, we can protect not only environment but also protecting developing nations. Which side do you prefer? Thank you for listening.
Thank you for the speech. And now we have Mode from opposition house. Please come up to the front and give us your speech.
Okay, so hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the lead speaker of opposition team. I will do two things in this podium. First thing, I will just pick or review the wrong points about government team said about instruct. Secondly, I will shortly mirrors our team's opinion. First, what I will say about the Prime Minister of government team. She said the problem had to be solved. They just give the environment problem have to be solved, but they just give us to stop exporting, which is efficient to environment, but they didn't give us a clear solution. And she said the developed country has a responsibility to take earth destruction as stopping exporting, and which makes stop destruction. But it's time to pay developed nations the green environment. But if we stop exporting, it causes energy like problem of developing country. This means it's just damaging developing country. And the Deputy Prime Minister said, she said about money for one country's benefit, why we have to export. She said she can't understand. But if we stop exporting, developing countries get problem. Nowadays we have just a few percent energy source about eco-friendly. In this situation, if coal energy exporting stops, electricity of developing country gets big damage. Also, at another aspect of economy. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
You said that we haven't given any alternative to the ignoring the benefits of the developing countries. But we said two times we said that we stop exporting gradually, step by step, as we develop renewable energy. What do you think about that?
As I said, the government said about renewable energy and eco-friendly energy. But in nowadays industry, we have just 20% of energy source which can instead the coal energy. So this can't. So if we stop exporting this coal energy, this all 80% of energy can't be instead by renewable energy. And the Deputy Prime Minister said and Prime Minister and we've said they're just repeating, say, some problem, environmental problem. If we now stop exporting from energy, as I said, we have damage of electricity. The government whip, she said the developed country system should be developed, but they didn't give us exact example how we have to change the developed nations to be changed. And they also saying repeatedly about universal benefits, and they didn't give us, and they also didn't give us exact example which they have to. As I said, and our team said, if we stop exporting, how can we protect energy like problem? They didn't give us a solution, but just things to but just saying to stop exporting. And secondly, I will shortly remember our team's opinion. The first point was developed country. They are also have to earn money, so so if we ban exporting to developed nations, it's improper. The second point was the big value of developed nations in energy industry. So if we ban developed country to stop exporting, the developing countries can instead be part of developed country. And in conclusion, we should stop
Now we have reply sessions. So from the opposition part, we have Ruban Song.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the reply speaker of the opposition, and now I would like to tell you about two things as strong points and weak points. Strong points of opposition part and weak point of the government side. First of all, we would like to emphasize that we made a persuasive arguments and diverse arguments because we deal this motion with many parts such as environment and global relationships. So we strongly believe that it's pretty perceivable to continue our arguments. And secondly, we would like to tell you that we made a specific examples such as Canada and Norway, and so it made our audience to understand our argument further. And I would like to tell you the weak points of the opening part. First of all, they have a weak arguments because they made the mistake of misunderstanding of this motion. They should tell us why only developed nations should stop exporting with many reasons, because their reasons don't have a proper reasons to make us further. And also they made a mistake of asking POI time. They took much more than 15 seconds of POI, so it's a mistake of the opposition government part. So we opposition part mentioned 3 points. First argument was disadvantage to developed nation, and second argument was current situation, and lastly, third argument was global relationship. Therefore, we should be the winners of this debate. Thank you.
Now we have team meeting for the reply session.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the last speaker of this debate. So I would like to say 2 things about what the government has did well in this debate and the mistakes of the opposition has. Firstly, we developed our 3 arguments on the status quo, that no much energy resources is left, and then harmful energy sources make the environment polluted. So with these 2 facts, we developed our arguments that the quality of livelihood will be more important than the earning benefits. So stopping energy as we develop renewable energy. With this alternative, we can process this motion well. So and then we gave you statistics and examples fully to understand to make you understand well about these three arguments. And we also gave so many POIs which means we concentrated well on this debate. So secondly, I will say about there are four mistakes in this debate. So firstly, they developed the arguments, but it was ignoring the people's livelihood, people's life wealth, quality of the living wealth. So it broke the motto of the 21st century, the developed countries saying. So and secondly, they were rule breaking. The second speaker gave the POI during the protection time when our whip speaker was saying. And thirdly, I think they are not fully understanding about this motion and even our definition. We made this point that the time we said making this time the time to develop renewable energy and to gradually decrease the exporting object to complete itself. They didn't understand about this. And fourthly, they didn't elaborate the arguments fully to make us understand. And finally, I will say this. If we take the proposition to the motion, we can protect not only the environment and developing nations. Which side would you prefer? Undoubtedly, I will take the part in which we can make the perfect word.
I think we need time to check. Total score, please give us a few minutes.
아 미안해 내가 말아먹었어. 아 떨려. 정말 떨려. 아니 이거 수출하지 않는 것 자체가 퀄리티를 내추는 거라니까. 근데 원래 이거 완벽한.
Thank you for your speech and thank you for your hard working for this contest. And I think you all did a good job. I should tell you today's winner, right? Today's winning team is you know what? Actually, the total score is not that different, but all judges calculated the points and slightly more. I mean, so you did a good job, and we are going to have some kind of picture session after this. So please to the side. Thank you.